What's going on, everybody? We've got 2 episodes this week, and I'm really excited for this one. We've got a very special guest. He is probably the Yoda of the pro-democracy movement. He's an ad maker. He is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project. He has been an outstanding mentor to me, an outstanding writer, just all around great person. Everybody, welcome to the stage, Mr. Rick Wilson. What's going on, Rick?
How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you here. I'm really excited about this.
Great to be with you.
I know we've been planning it for a little bit. You know, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, and one of the things that's got me really pissed off lately, is this invasion of like total shitbags on the right wing, like right wing media, like Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson. They're all getting kind of normalized right now. But before we get started on that, one of the things that I admire about you is this form of intellectual masculinity that you present. When I got out of the Army and I went back to school, a lot of what I was searching for was a new form of masculinity, a new form of being able to use my thoughts to be a man and find my place in the world, I guess. Sure. And you were one of the people that I really admired. You use your smarts to, I don't know, put yourself out there and put your opinions and thoughts out there, and you have no problem with telling things how it is. Where does that come from? Does it come from like your experience working so long in this industry, or is it just your love?
Actually, it comes from my upbringing. Mm-hmm. It comes from, I was raised in the South, and we were always, as kids, encouraged to be direct, to argue your point, to be blunt with people, but also to do it politely when you can and impolitely when you have to. Mm-hmm. And it's the kind of thing that I grew up with, and I've learned over the course. Some of it's from my career. You end up with people that you respect, or you're working for or working with, that are of a higher stature than you at that moment in your life. Mm-hmm. And I discovered pretty early on that being an ass kisser, you go one of two paths. You could be an ass kisser. You could be somebody who always says, "Yes, sir, that's the most brilliant idea I've ever heard." Or you could occasionally go, "You're out of your fucking mind." and I learned over time that saying to people, "You're out of your fucking mind," occasionally it breaks the spell of the bullshit of a lot of other people around them. And so, working for people as I grew up, working for presidents and secretaries of defense and members of Congress and the U.S. Senate and governors and all these people, I reached a point pretty early where I was just like, I could bullshit all day long, and maybe I'll get an office in the West Wing, or I could be direct and honest and real about things. And that's what I try to do, Evan. I try to tell people, like, I can do X for you. I can't do Y for you. This is a good idea. This is a bad idea. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. And look, and I've been lucky also to have some people who mentored me coming up, who were like, I'm going to throw you in the deep end of the pool. You may not think you can come out. You should try to come out. If you come out, you get to come back to work tomorrow. And that sort of thing, it also shapes you, where eventually, like, the incentive structures of politics are often really fucked up. The ass kisser wins. The snake in the grass wins. The guy who says, "Oh, we're going to do X," and then we do something else. Those people, they have a track record. They have a lifespan. Some of them get very rich. Some of them get very powerful. None of them really sleep that well at night. They're always vulnerable to being fucked by another person just like them. So I decided not to be like anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And there is that laziness of they don't sleep good. They don't sleep good at night. And there's more value in telling the truth and being that person that speaks it bluntly and everything. And, with the death of Charlie Kirk, I think that there's been this vacuum on the right wing that we've seen with the media, and there's no truth telling going on there. And I think that one of the things that I get frustrated about, I've seen this normalcy of people like Nick Fuentes, and they're getting promoted and mainstreamed, and it almost seems like these ideas are becoming commonplace because he's polished it up a little bit more. And what it really is there's still that same virulent anti-Semitism underneath. What do you think the answer is to combating that? Do you think it's ignoring it? Do you think it's going out against it? Like,
I think you can't ignore. I think it's like going to the doctor and he goes, "Hey, there's a weird lump. We're going to ignore it."
Yeah.
And a guy like Tucker, who came from being mainstreamed by having a multi-million-dollar a year contract on Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, has Tucker evolved somewhat since he was on Fox? Yeah. But was the core of this there? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Fuentes, we know who he is. We've known for years. He's been outright about it. Mike Cernovich and Richard Spencer and all these other guys who were on that alt-right axis. That has become slowly laundered and cleaned up. And I'll tell you why it happens, Evan. And there's a rule that Steve Bannon came up with called no enemies to my right.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the MAGA movement, they're like, yeah, well, I'm not a Nazi, but the Nazi guys are on the same side as me. They both hate the woke people and the black people and the Jews, but they can say it out loud. I'm just going to say it out loud. So I'm okay with them being out there on my right wing. And look, Democrats have a smaller scale version of that problem. Yes, on the far, far left wing of the Democratic Party, there are a handful of actual communists, a handful of real anti-Semites. But the scale problem is that's like 0.5% of the Democratic coalition, whereas the alt-right is now about 25% of the coalition. And that includes a lot of these younger guys who are very attracted to the Nick Fuentes bullshit, the Groypers, the I'm only ironically racist and anti-Semitic. No, guys, yeah, you actually are. Once you're like posting the Hitler memes, yeah, you're not being ironic about it anymore. So they're a big part of the coalition of the GOP now. Mm-hmm. There used to be inside the GOP a sort of in my younger days a sort of immune reflex in that world. I'll give you a good example. When I had to take a leave of absence from my government appointment to go down to Louisiana in 1991 because the president wanted a bunch of guys who could go swing iron pipes politically, like me, to go down there and beat David Duke, who was the Republican candidate, but he was a Klansman. And George Herbert Walker Bush said, "Not on my damn watch." And so we all went down there, and a whole ton of us were down. I mean, hundreds of us, young guys from who had been in the campaign before in '88, went down there to beat this guy because we were not going to have a Klansman as a governor in the Republican Party in this country. Edwin Edwards was the Democrat. Vote for the crook was our slogan. It's important. Mm-hmm. So, but that immune response is gone, Evan. It is gone. There's nothing there anymore. Those people now are, it's really, let's remember, Donald Trump had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, the dinner with him and Kanye West. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at that one. Because on the one hand, I'm sure Trump was like, I know Yeezy. He's a celebrity. I'm a celebrity. I don't know who this Fuentes kid is, but dinner. I'd be fascinated to know what happened in that moment. But they have gotten normalized. They have gotten mainstreamed. They do have platforms now. I mean, look, the New York City Young Republican Club next week is hosting the head of the youth division of AfD, which is the
German party.
Deutschland. It's the far right German party. I used to work for the far right German party, which was the Christian Social Union, the Bavarian conservative Catholic party. Mm-hmm. They're now in the middle in German politics. The CDU-CSU coalition is in the middle of German politics. AfD, they're bringing a kid here who literally says, "I love Adolf Hitler."
And they were the ones that Elon Musk was flirting with too, right?
I think he's more fucking him than flirting with him. He's in bed with him. I mean, he's like, AfD is the only thing that can save Germany. All right.
The rise of the Nazis again. And
you'd think we'd learn this fucking lesson.
Exactly. And I think one of the problems is, and I think it's really being addressed right now through independent media, is one of the things, like from my generation, there are people like me that are more progressive, more pro-democracy and everything. And I think there was like a hesitancy of like, am I going to get attacked for speaking out? Do I feel comfortable enough like promoting these views? Am I going to get labeled as some liberal nutcase or
Tommy.
whatever. And I think that there was that hesitancy and almost laziness where the right wing filled that void with people like Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes and everything. But I think through independent media, we're really starting to make bounds. And that's one of the things that why I'm forcing myself to do these kind of interviews now is I want to be a more positive, use that intellectual masculinity to reach people. What do you think that places like Lincoln Square, I mean, we have such a wide variety of like backgrounds and people and everything. 100%. How do you think that that can fill that space?
Look, I think one of the things about our politics that got broken is that, and I will say this very bluntly, both sides really wanted to be told for a long time only what they wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And the Republicans wanted to be told that Donald Trump was a golden god and that he could never be defeated and nothing could ever change. And the world has permanently realigned for Donald Trump and that he's beset upon all sides by communists and terror, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And on the left, a lot of people wanted to be told, all you have to do is write the best policy paper about climate change and everyone will love you.
Uh-huh.
And the next Barack Obama will just mysteriously appear. And you know, as I've told a lot of my Democratic friends, Barack Obama is a once in a 100-year guy.
Yeah, definitely.
In my lifetime, there have been two stupendously charismatic, whether you love them or hate them, charismatic presidents, Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama. Nobody else is even close. I love George Herbert Walker Bush like a father. He was the guy I worked for. He was my president, but he was not a guy who was a massively charismatic figure. Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton was pretty charismatic, but not as transformative as Reagan was for Republicans and Obama was for Democrats. So they want to hear, a lot of people want to hear what they want to hear,
mm-hmm.
but sometimes they need to hear things instead of wanting to. And there's nothing on the right that's telling them what they need to hear. It's only what they want to hear. And in the center, there's a huge craving for what you need to hear. And on the left, there is an increasing understanding of what they need to hear. Mm-hmm. Not just feel good stuff, but hey, here's what we've got to do. This is a messy, horrible, shitty job, but we got to do it this way.
Yeah.
And that is part of, you know, look, and I look at that as part of being a man, as being a leader. You have to sometimes tell people, I'm going to do X. Here we got to, the way for us to get to the goal line is to do these 3 or 4 hard things that you don't like.
You got to embrace the suck.
Yeah, embrace the suck. You know, I grew up, my dad had a set of rules for me growing up, and I've lived by it every day of my life. He said, son, you are going to be governed by your expectations, your choices, and the consequences that flow from those.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of a weird mashup of Stoicism and Catholicism.
Yeah.
And that idea of an independent media now that isn't as chained up to either playing to one faction or chained up to playing to expectations or too afraid to do the work. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm never going to get a White House press pass, and I get that. Because the government now only keeps reporters around it that don't push too hard. You push too hard too many days in a row, you don't get a White House press pass anymore. You don't get on the plane. You don't get interviews. You don't get in the pool. I don't care.
That's why we saw Laura Loomer at the Pentagon yesterday.
That is why Laura Loomer and
Matt Gaetz.
I know that office they're in, the bullpen room very, very well from my time working at the Pentagon, doing public affairs and legislative affairs stuff there, doing stuff that we had dozens of reporters in that building who were going to pursue a story. If it was a legitimate story, they were going to drive for it like nobody's business. And now all these people have signed a thing that says, I will not write a story that does not get dictated to me by the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
That is not independent media.
No,
that is not media at all. It's stenography, Evan. It is people taking dictation from Pete Hegseth, for fuck's sake. And so, and the other thing about it is, it's not that they've replaced the real reporters because they're afraid of security issues. Because I can tell you one thing. I worked in the Pentagon 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with reporters almost every day. And if we went to them and said, hey, this part of the story you're pursuing could put lives in danger, and here's why, Never once, including during the entire length of the Gulf War, did I see that happen. Not one time did I see a reporter go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to play the bad guy, and I'm going to say, oh, these special forces operatives are here in this position, and we're going to, but they never did it. So that's the lie that the Pentagon is telling. Like, we have to have patriots in these jobs. You have to have reporters. And look, a lot of the independent media right now is a lot of guys like you and I. We have opinions, we have thoughts, we have perspectives. You know, we're not out doing a lot of reporting per se, but independent media is beginning to show reporting chops as well of people doing original journalism, not just opinion writing, original coverage of issues, not just perspective. And I think that is tremendously important. I think that's where Substack is going to explode as a platform, because a lot of these reporters and journalists who have migrated to this world that we're in now, this independent journalism world, they understand that people are hungry for news. People are desperate for news. They want to know what the fuck is happening. They don't want to feel confused and sidelined and lied to, and they feel like they get that way too often. And it's a delicate moment for independent media, but it's also tremendously promising. And you've got to have an ability to be willing to put yourself out there. And when you and I first started talking, you were like, I have these thoughts about this and this and this and this. And it is a challenge to put yourself out there that first time. You know, I'm a guy who's been going on television for 35 years now, so I don't care. But normal people who start in this, who really are valuable parts of the discussion that we're having as a country, it's tough. I get it. So anybody watching this right now, don't be ashamed or hesitant to put something out there, to write something, to say something, to become somebody who has an opinion. Look, a lot of people have an opinion that is a cookie cutter impression of everybody else's. That is not genuine. If you get a genuine voice in this world now of independent media, you have a chance to break through to people. You have a chance to be a bigger idea. And that to me is something that I think is just, I think there's a lot of untapped talent in this world that needs to be talking more, that based on their lived experience, based on what they've been through, based on things they've seen in the world, good and bad and indifferent. And I think that's just a powerful place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all thanks to people like you, I think, being in this independent media world. And like you said, with more reporters and people from mainstream media. Like I talked to Tara Palmieri yesterday. We see her.
Great interview. That was a great interview.
I appreciate you. And you got Joy Reid, you've got Waj Ali, you've got all kinds of people, and that's inspiring people like myself, my buddy Nick Paro. He's a fellow veteran that runs Banner and Backbone. And I think it's only with people like you guys lifting voices up, I think it's only going to help weed out those shitbags like Nick Fuentes and kind of that right-wing media.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just refuse to accept. This conception that the only way to display masculinity is to be a racist fuckbag.
Exactly.
This is not how it works, folks. And Scott Galloway and I have talked a lot about this over the years. And he's written a tremendous book about manhood. And this idea that the only way you show manhood is cruelty. I mean, none of these people were raised right. None of these people were raised in the South, for one thing. I mean, I was taught from the beginning, you show that you're a man by helping people, by lifting people up, by courtesy, by manners, by dignity. And so many of these people are just these like 4chan jerk-offs who are now like, I'm going to take supplements and lift. Oh, that's man. That makes me my man.
And they're just scared of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the inverse proportional relationship between these guys and what masculinity is, it's not funny in a funny way. It's hilariously bad and wrong. They just don't understand that the world they think they're living in, that they're getting from, Mike Cernovich or whoever, it does not exist.
No.
I mean, these people are not, anybody who says to me, oh, Andrew Tate said, okay, that's the end of the discussion.
Exactly.
That's the end of the discussion. I don't want to hear what a fucking rapist sex trafficker said. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a man.
It's pure laziness. And it's the thing that I think that my life, there has never been more that has come good out of it than the last 10 years where I've gone to therapy and I've looked at myself and I've had empathy for other people and I've learned how to talk to other people and present my thoughts in a coherent, intelligent way. Right. And I think that that's the space that, places like Lincoln Square and people like Scott Galloway and everybody are starting to fill. And I think that, as we see MAGA kind of tailing off in their, I guess, cultural presence as Trump fades and he starts to shit his Pampers more and more and more. I think that we'll slowly start to see those voices kind of tail off, and we'll see,
Yeah, I hope so. And look, there is a great set of negative incentives right now to be those guys. And there is something that, when you look at a lot of young men in this country, they've had a really rough time of it in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. Young boys are told from the start, girls are smarter, girls are better behaved, girls are going to do better in school than you. And so now we see that college is basically 63% women. Mm-hmm. You've got young men who were even the ones who wanted to live like the meritocracy dream, who are told, yeah, well, you're not really good for much. We don't want you in a professional setting. We don't like you. You're impulsive, all these things. For young men, that is a real problem. And so they do gravitate to the Joe Rogans and the Andrew Tates and the idiots. Mm-hmm. When young men have purpose, we have a better country. We have a better world. When they have purpose and meaning. And it is so hard to find that in a lot of ways these days, because the incentive structures in our society are really fucked up. They don't get the reward for the hard work that the old meritocracy promised them. And I think it's really become like a something that's almost threatening to the country, almost like a security problem for the country, because where you also find a lot of those young lost boys, places like Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan, and they say, well, I'm not going to ever get anything out of this world, so I might as well do something and rack up a high score and go shoot up a church or go fly into a building. And man, as a country, we need to slap that down as hard as we possibly can. Be good role models, show the way, mentor people, give a shit about people, protect people. And, it is not always the easiest path, and it doesn't make you any money. Yeah. But it makes you a better person. It makes you a human. And that's important.
And you're going to feel a lot better at the end of the day, and women will like you a lot more. That's for sure.
Well, listen, these incel kids who are always like, I can't seem to get a girl. Yeah. Okay, well, stop fucking masturbating to anime and get out there and do something decent in the world. Stop being a fucking moron.
Yeah, edgelords aren't going to win it for you.
No. There's no woman that wakes up in the morning and goes, you know what I really want is a guy who posts dick memes on 4chan. That's what I'm looking for. It doesn't exist, guys.
Exactly. Hey, we're coming close on time. I know we've only got about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you real quick. We saw an incredible race in Tennessee last night. Did. A district that I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong.
27 points for Trump and a generic R22 plus for Republicans in general.
Yes. And I didn't see the final numbers, but I know that they were in single digits.
3%. Well, Evan, let me just, since we are short, let me just say this. If you're a Republican this morning in the House of Representatives and you're not in a R plus 30 seat, you're thinking, maybe this is my year to retire. Mm-hmm. This was a loud, brutal alarm bell. The Republicans put tens of millions of dollars into this race to win by 3 points in a district Trump won by 27. It also tells you Williamson and Davidson County, two of the big counties in this district, I only know this because my daughter lives in Davidson.
Uh-huh.
Those counties are educated Republicans,
Mhm.
and a lot of them moved across. Now, the rural counties still pretty much held up, but suburban swing counties, where almost every single one of the contested hot seats for 2026 is located, this is a real bad sign for the GOP. This is a bad, bad night. It is unspinnably bad. I emailed a Republican pollster this morning who I used to do a lot of work with. I said, "How you feeling this morning?" He goes, "Fucked." I'm like, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Because that basically tells us that they're operating at the bare bones of the base right now in terms of support.
That's right. Look, with Trump's at 35%,
Mm-hmm.
which is a historic low. Even Jimmy Carter was never at. Who was a historically unpopular president, was never at 35% at this point in their presidential term. Joe Biden at this point was still at 45%, 10 points better, and he was taking a beating from COVID, inflation, price runaway stuff, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is dragging the party down. He's a guy who's building a ballroom at the same time that people are in the store going, should I buy the generic or the name brand soup for the kids for dinner tonight?
Mm-hmm.
It is not pretty.
The wife spent $50 on one bag of groceries last night, and she was like, all I wanted was a BLT, and it was like $50. And it's just,
it's crazy.
The first thing that I thought about last night when I was seeing those results is a while back I had emailed you, and I was being somewhat facetious, throwing ideas out there.
Right.
And I said, Jeff Crank in CO5. I was like, do you think I could ever do it? And the first thing you told me, you're like, that's a tall order. It's R+9.
Yep.
And I thought about that last night, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This means that could happen all across the country.
Yep. Look, I think, and the problem for the GOP is this, Evan. They've had a year of Trump to do something to show people that they care about their economic plight. Mm-hmm. They have taken exactly the opposite turn in everything. They're raising ACA health premiums. The prices have not come down. The trade wars continue to hurt people. Everything they've done, because they don't want to piss off Trump, has put them in a position where even if tomorrow they all woke up and said, "Oh, we got to fix this," there's no time left. There's 11 months till the election. This is going to go like the wind for these people. It's going to whip past so fast, and they can't change the direction of the ship. They just can't do it. Last night was a good sign. A lot of work to do still. Can't take your foot off the pedal. Can't take your hand off the tiller, but it is a real sign of how fucked up and weak the Republicans are this year.
That's good news. Music to my ears, I guess.
Yes. Well, Evan, thanks for having me on today, man. Folks, follow Evan on Substack and elsewhere across the various platforms. I think of myself as a talent spotter in some ways, and I was happy Evan reached out to me. We became friends in the last year, and I really want to encourage you to follow his work. He is a terrific guy and a real voice in this thing that we should be listening to. I
can't thank you enough, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we will talk soon. Thanks, everybody.
Will see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
See ya.